Welcome to the Star Network. I'm Pascha Haninah, and today we're going to talk about Soulful Action. Now, Soulful Action is a program that I use as part of my Your Divine Journey program, but it's actually really beneficial as we talk today about working and connecting more deeply with our spirit team. Now, I know you're anxious to jump right in, and you want to meet them, you want to talk to them, you want to just get into gear and start receiving those messages and start working towards that purpose with your spirit team right by your side, and you want to work on those skills, and we will do that. But before we do that, and before we just jump right in, it is important for us to think about how we have to reframe the way that we currently exist in the world in order to work really freely and fluently with the spirit team that is standing by ready to communicate with us. Now, you've already been receiving messages from your spirit team, I guarantee it. Your spirit guides, the animals that are appealing to you, that are communicating with you, that are sharing their messages with you, that are guiding you. Our ancestors have been working with us. Angels have been working with us if that's something that is in your path. But all of these elemental beings have been working with you for as long as you have had a soul relationship. Some of them have been from this birth, and some of them have been from many, many lifetimes in the past. Some even come from the future to make sure that you're doing what you need to do to prepare yourself for future contracts. We'll talk about that when we get to time travel. But before we can really move in and have an authentic and balanced relationship with our spirit team, one that answers the question, how can I trust my spirit team and know that I'm working with them? We need to be working with the most pure vessel that we have, and one that is at least working towards fulfilling our highest spiritual purpose. One way that I see that is through, like I said, soulful action. Well, what does that mean? Let's break it down into this. The S in soulful stands for surrender. You'll remember that I reached a point in my spiritual path before my spiritual awakening where I just had to say, you drive. And spirit team said, will you listen to us now? And I had to. There was no other choice for me in that moment. I had reached the point where I had reached the limits of my illusion. It was either going to grow or I was not going to be able to fulfill my contract. And at that point, I surrendered to my spirit team, and I told them, I will allow you to lead as long as, because I'm not a pushover, I have my rules. I don't just do anything that anything tells me to do. I'm a Scorpio. I don't trust anybody. So I say this, as long as it's of a vibration of love or higher, it's for my highest, greatest good, and it's for the greatest good of all, and because the Egyptian pantheon is one of my pantheons that I work on. I'm a multi-path practitioner, but I believe in Mahat. It's for balance, harmony, and cosmic order. For me, I have never felt that my purpose in this world and my purpose in existence on this planet was solely so that I could have a good life, but rather that my having a good life was a reflection of my relationship with harmony, balance, and order. So when I am working in harmony and I'm fulfilling my highest spiritual path, everything that I never knew I wanted was provided for me. I don't have to worry about that anymore. So I just simply surrender to spirit. And I made an oath at that time that I would do what spirit asked me to do unconditionally as long as those standards were met. Those standards were met. And so I had to surrender. When you surrender, you have to let your guard down. You have to reframe all of those defense mechanisms that you've had to stay afloat and to stay on top. And you don't always have to do this in every interpersonal relationship that you have, but to truly be led by spirit and to establish the most authentic relationship with your true spirit team, that requires that you surrender. The O in soulful action says, I'm open to the unknown. There are a lot of things that exist that you don't know about. That's just simply the way it is. When you elevate what you believe to be true, that space is filled in with things that you didn't know to be true. So as you open yourself to the unknown, you can fill it in. Maybe you are able to see your spirit team. Maybe you're able to hear them more clearly. Maybe the rules of science and physics are a little bit different as that elevator or glass ceiling, I guess, gets a little bit higher and higher. Open yourself to the unknown. I guarantee you there are things that you don't know. I was an academic. When I had my spiritual reawakening and spirit team took over and they said, will you listen to us now? One of the things that they told me to do was stop reading. I immediately went to my library to start pulling in all of the books that they had told me to not read because as an academic, I was quite a collector of knowledge. I couldn't read. When I opened up the page, all of the words were blurred. I had to close them and put them away. Spirit said, we're going to tell you everything we want you to know. You know nothing. Except that you're starting from ground zero and you don't know anything, and we're going to show you what you need. That's a big ask. But I agreed. And I have opened myself up to the unknown, and I've seen things that in a million years you could not have told me that I would have believed that I have seen. So S-O, the U in soulful action says unlearn. Guess what? Not only do I not know anything, but I have to unlearn everything that I think I know, which means I have to unlearn how I communicate with people. I have to accept that everything that has ever been known by me is a translation. It's a translation from those who are taking one bit of information or knowledge or whatever, putting it through their own filter and putting it into a format for me to receive, sometimes down many, 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 many layers of translation. So I had to unlearn what I thought I know and open myself to be shown with what Spirit needed me to see to fulfill my highest spiritual purpose. Now, here's an area that I wasn't really so good at before, but it's the L in soulful action, and that is listen. My team said very clearly, will you listen to us now? Now, granted, they have told me things that I didn't want to hear, and I have been sat here with my arms crossed across my chest telling them, you can go find some other fool. I'm not interested in doing this anymore. But ultimately, I agreed to listen, and I follow through on that obligation. When your spirit team tells you, when they show you a sign, when they're warning you, when they're giving you information, are you second guessing it? Are you saying, oh, I thought that, but then I didn't do anything about it? Eventually, if you keep not listening and tuning it out or changing the dial, you begin to become acclimated to their communication, what they're trying to show you, and they might not communicate with you because they don't feel like you're going to be paying attention anyway, or you're always talking them out. Now, it sounds easy, but the reality of it is, I always say this, show me a sign so big even I won't question it. Now, I mentioned to you before, I'm a skeptic. I was an academic, I was a scientist. I wasn't really into any of this woo-woo stuff until I didn't have a choice but to do it. I have to listen all the time. I'm always listening. If you have ever had an experience with me, or probably even in some of these videos, you've heard me say, I just heard them say this, I just heard that, or I'm listening all the time. I listen and I trust them because we've established a relationship where I know that I agreed to listen and they agreed to the terms that I set forth in my daily practice. And that requires the F in soulful action, which is fearlessness. You have to go into places that you we're afraid to see, sometimes in yourself, sometimes in relationships. If we're just talking three-dimensional world, we have a lot of fear that we carry in this world. When I was undergoing cancer treatment, my biggest fear was money. Honestly, I had experience, sent me and my family away. We shuttered our business and we loaded everything into a RV, and we put our house on the market, but nobody was interested in buying it at that time. And I was diagnosed with a very, very aggressive form of cancer. So we had no roots, no plan, no money, no jobs, nothing, no prospects. And I was laying there worried as the medical bills were building up and things were coming up that I was worried about. And I just went like this. I finally just said, I can't worry anymore. I'm handing it over to Spirit. I said, you guys handle this. And they were so excited. They said, we thought you'd never ask. And they took care of it. And money appeared in the bank and the bills got paid. And I don't know how it happened. I just let them handle it. But I had to let go of that fear, that fear that I carried from a very early age of financial insecurity, of not having enough, about not being safe. I was a teenage runaway, so I always had that fear that I'm gonna be homeless, that I'm not gonna be able to feed my kids, that all of the blah, that voice that was always instilling fear. I had to let go of that in order to progress. And when I did that, Spirit jumped right in and said, we gotcha. And so I don't allow fear anymore. When I'm afraid, I communicate about it and I acknowledge to Spirit that I'm afraid and I ask for signs to let me know, but I also state what I know to be true. I am safe and protected at all times. Now, once I've done that and I'm feeling really fearless and I've been listening and I accept that I know nothing, now what? You have to unite. How are you using your gifts? If Spirit is going to continue to give you ways and show you ways, your Spirit team, it's not about you. It's about how you show up in the world. How do you guide your community? How do you guide your relationships? How do you guide your family? How do you put Spirit's will into action? Is the action part of Soulful Action. And you do that by being in unity, holding unity in your heart, the oneness of all. And the L, perhaps the greatest thing of all, is love. We move in love. We don't move in fear. We don't move in anger. We hold the space knowing that our Spirit team is of a vibration of love or higher. If we hold that vibration of love, then anything that is not of a vibration of love isn't going to be able to live there. It can't, because we've already set the parameters. You have to be of a vibration of love or higher to be in my inner circle. So by creating your own way of existing in the world and putting soulful action into practice, that's the action part. Understand that life is not a spectator sport, neither is purpose. Action means practice. Spend 5 minutes on the mat. You make a mistake, own it. Think about the way that you use words. Think about the way that you react. You have a natural reaction to things. Is it beneficial? Is it truthful? Ask yourself all the time, is this truth? Is this coming from the truth? Or is there a story here that I need to work out? Do I need to think about where this reaction is coming from? What am I telling myself? Am I receiving something in a way that is harmful to me because I'm trying to build a buffer of safety around me that's based on illusion? And when you can answer those questions truthfully, take your instrument out, open it up, talk to people, have this humiliating standing in front of a camera, talking to the world and hoping that your words land somewhere. It's hard. It's not an easy thing for me to do. I'm somebody who likes to be a little bit more behind the scenes, but I'm trying to fulfill my purpose. I'm bringing my soulful action and I'm bringing my instrument out. I'm putting it into action. It's not that easy, but it is that simple. I hope you will find these tools useful as you work closer and closer and develop a more meaningful relationship with your spirit guides and your spirit teams. Next time, we'll take a journey and we'll go see if we can meet some members of our spirit team. Thank you for listening.